Welcome to the Gal's Guide to the Galaxy podcast, where a group of gals gather for you one cool thing around our topic of the month. Is it ancient history? Is it breaking news? Is it safe for work? Well, that's up to each gal. All we know is that...
Fasten your seatbelts. It's going to be a bumpy night.
Welcome back. I am Leah, and I am joined by Bonnie and Debbie and Katie, who's listening at home somewhere.
She's
right,
getting a quiz.
Katie? You will be quizzed later. And we're talking about our one cool folktale and myth. So, Katie, who was here at one point and had to go home, she already talked about Tiamat. And Bonnie, who's still here because, she's, my star student, she talked about the mythic Greek ladies of history. And Debbie, who is still here, also a gold star student, she talked about Mother Goose. Sorry, Katie, I love you. I'm sorry. So, before we dive back in, let's get to know something random about our gal pals. So my question for you is, what do you feel is the role of myth in the modern world? Because myths are usually tales of old. So how does it relate to our modern world today? Dun, 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 dun. In your humble opinion. Dun, dun, dun.
According to my senior thesis.
Yes. You can totally cheat off your own work, Bonnie.
Yes, yeah. I wrote it. I was reading something for school recently, and some dude cited an earlier paper of his, and I'm like, can you do that?
Yes, you can.
I was like, man. I'm like, that seems like cheating.
I'm my own best reference.
I mean, it was researched and cited for, so why not?
But no, they're stories that we retell over and over. I don't know how many freaking stories are all like, I forget what it's called.
Man against man.
The white
man against nature.
The white man savior story. The Pocahontas story.
Yes,
yeah.
Exactly.
Like,
yes.
I remember watching, I got so annoyed when I was watching Avatar. I'm like, it's just that same freaking motif
Avatar.
over and
Yes.
over and
Oh,
over
yeah.
again.
Yeah. It's Dances with Wolves meets Ferngully.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like the white savior thing. But
Yes, exactly.
No, there's stories that we tell over and over. I mean, Star Wars is a giant, like a myth with the whole world. And
Totally. It's a
with
Japanese
its own
myth.
myths in there.
Yep.
It's like
It's
a dream
Japanese?
within a dream.
Yeah.
I did not know that.
George Lucas actually wanted to cast it with all Japanese actors and place it in samurai times and realized he wouldn't get funding for that. And so he changed it to space.
Thank you.
Yeah. But yes, it's very much based off of Japanese archetypes. I know, it starts to make a little bit of kind of weird sense now. Yeah.
Yeah. Things kind of fall into place here.
I know.
Yeah.
All right. So
Okay.
as Debbie
Sorry.
is now going to a galaxy far, far away,
Yeah.
what would you say your answer is the role of myth in modern society?
Well, one of the things I learned in researching all these is how the more things change, the more they stay the same.
Unfortunately.
And
Yes.
the myths were a way, like a lot of the fairy tales that were written in medieval times were political statements
Yes.
couched in fairy tale language
Right.
to make them so that you could tell the stories.
A spoonful of sugar, if
Yes.
you will. Yes. Uh-huh.
And myths can still do that. It is still hard to come forward with, here's my problem.
Right.
I need to fix it. But you've got these myths to fall back on, and you can tell you can tell your story as someone else
Right. Exactly. Yes.
and get it out there.
Yeah. Very true. Dun, dun, dun. For me, I'm obsessed with myths because I love the idea of human beings are so different yet so the same. You know what I mean? When it kind of comes to it. So there's a Joseph Campbell quote. Sorry, I always love Joseph Campbell quotes. Where one who thought they would be alone finds they are in the center of the universe, and one when they think they will have slayed a demon will have found a god. And it's like everything that we think is one is actually another when it comes to myth. When we think we're so far apart from each other, we actually see how interconnected we are. And that's what I love about myths, because it doesn't matter what the faith is or what country it came from. You see a shared humanity. And so I love that aspect, but then again, I just love stories. So like any kind of stories, I'm like, what's your message? What's your point? What am I supposed to use this for, to be like a better person and stuff like that? So I think myths get a bad rap in today's society of thinking, oh, well, it's fake news or it's not true. But like myths are just actually a story way of saying, this is a way maybe you can get through this hard time. Yeah. You know what I mean? And maybe you can share on wisdom. So speaking of which, I'm going to share my cool thing. And I'm so geeked out about this because I discovered this little gem during the pandemic. And I've been like feeling like I've almost been keeping it to myself. But it has been a game changer for me. And I'm so excited that I get to share with you. Okay, so I'm going to talk about the mythical archetypes of Tibetan Buddhism. And the really cool part is that these represent the empowered feminine. So these are all wisdom female goddesses in Tibetan Buddhism. They are called Dakinis. All right. And there are 5 of them that I'm going to talk about. And they are female in origin. They are equal to Buddhas. They are not subservient. They are absolutely of the same equal power to Buddhas. They are fierce as shit. And they represent wisdom. That is their whole construct, is wisdom. So Daikini translates into sky dancer. Ooh. Or, get this, she who moves through space and sky. So the like galactic glamazon was like, space, I'm listening. Yeah. Space wisdom, ladies, spirits, gods. Yes, exactly. So
way better than regular fairies.
I know, right? Oh, totally. Yeah. So each Daikini embodies like a specific emotion, and they call the emotions the 5 poisons. Okay. So the Dakinis transform these poisons into wisdom. So, and I very much love this because, like, you know, working with women's history and stuff like that, I'm always seeing women's poisons or obstacles and how they change it and turn it into opportunities or a stepping stone for another gal of history. So I kind of see it the same way. Do you want to know what the 5 poisons are?
Yes.
All right. So the 5 poisons are ignorance, anger, pride, desire, and jealousy. So those are the 5 poisons that the Dakinis then turn into wisdom regarding them. So I'm going to show a picture to the ladies who are here, and I will share it in the show notes too. But this is what the Dakinis look like. This one's easier because it's black and white. But this one is she's red and she is white. They come, There's 5 different colors. So I'm going to break it down what you're seeing in that picture because it's a lot, right?
Yeah.
So it's a lot. But all 5 of them have the same series of elements in their drawings, okay? So, and they all have a story connected to them. So the first one is the hooked knife. And I drew it on there. So see that kind of like hooked knife? So the hook is the hook of compassion. And it's supposed to pull you out of the ocean of suffering. And the blade is to cut through the things that don't make you happy.
Oh, wow.
Right?
It's like a very severe, what's her name? Maria Kondo or whatever?
Yes. You cut it. You cut it. You find, does it spark joy? No, you cut it. You cut it. Then in their hand is a skull cup. Yes, somebody's skull cut open to make like a bowl or a cup. It has multiple meanings. So one of them is that the cup can hold the nectar of knowledge. All right. It can also be empty, which is the symbol of emptiness. It can also be the cauldron of transformation. And in Tibetan Buddhism, whenever you mention a cauldron, you're talking about a woman's womb. So it could be the womb of transformation, of birth or rebirth or change or things like that. Okay. So yeah, right. So the skull cup. So then there's the staff, you know, that stick that she's holding that has like the skulls on it. So that is usually held in the left arm and it's kind of like tucked into her elbow as she's holding it. That is basically your inner masculine energy. At the top of the staff is a varja. And yes, ladies, that represents a penis.
But it's got 3 heads.
It does have 3 heads on it. but it's supposed to represent the staff as a tent pole. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But then it's also, of course, a protective spear as well to defend yourself. It's also a walking staff as well. So it's a multi-purpose tool. But in the book, Wisdom Rising, which I gloriously have in the library, has Wisdom Rising, The Journey of the Mandala into the Empowered Feminine by Lama Tresome Alone. And I watch a lot of her videos too. She's actually really amazing. But she talks about the staff and she says, with it, she has the power to stand alone. She has internalized the masculine. So that staff is her masculine energy, which is now within herself. She can be by herself because, she has a penis stick.
You don't need no man. You got a penis stick.
Exactly, right? I know. I think their branding was completely off. All right. Also, all the Dakinis, they are dancing. That is an image of them dancing. Dancing is symbolic of being awake and being happy, and also to a certain extent, inner ecstasy. So it's just being very happy with yourself. You know what I mean? Just being ecstatically joyous. So they're dancing in that glorious image there.
Okay.
They're also naked, You would like to be like, oh, okay, of course she's naked. So, but in Tibetan Buddhism, she is naked as a symbolic of unadored truthfulness. Yes, that's what it's supposed to be. She has a crown of 5 skulls on her head. The 5 skulls represent the 5 wisdoms, which I'm going to talk about. She also has bone jewelry, like around her neck and body. Those are bones. It's to remind you that life is not forever, and you can take something scary like death, and you can transform it and make it into an ornament for beauty. So it's that transformation. She's also standing on a corpse. Do you see her standing on a pussy?
Yeah.
That is her own ego. She is standing on her own ego. So that's pretty badass, right? It's a lot to take in.
It is.
But that is a glorious Daikini. So there are 5 of them. They all have those same elements to them. But they all have different colors. And sometimes they will be holding something just a tiny bit different, like in their other hand, or they'll, instead of something on top of their staff. But each one of the different colors is a transformation into that particular poison. So the neat way that Lama Tresome actually kind of describes it as in her book, is she says to think of your left hand, and I have to go right hand and left hand. Okay, so think of your left hand, all right? Your index finger is your Varja, and Varja is your anger, then turned into wisdom. So your index finger is your anger. Your middle finger is the Buddha, and it turns ignorance into wisdom. Your ring finger, yes, right? Exactly. That's why you just say, fuck off.
Anger, you're pointing at somebody.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yes, you see it?
Yeah.
You see it? Okay. All right. The ring finger is the Rana, and it turns pride into wisdom. Think of it as your ring finger, pride,
Yeah.
Your pinky is your karma. It turns envy and jealousy into wisdom. Pinky's out, pinky's out.
Yeah.
And lastly, your thumb is the Padma, and it turns desire into wisdom. Now, in Tibetan Buddhism, the left hand that we were just counting on symbolizes the female energy of wisdom. Okay. The right hand is the male energy of skillful means.
Somehow I'm suddenly glad to be left-handed.
Right? I was born left-handed, and I was changed to right-handed. So that's why I'm messed up. No, I'm just kidding. But if you put together your right hand and your left hand, wisdom and skillful means, you have action. You have the male and female energy always within you. So I love that idea, because it's like, oh, wait a second. So each of these Dakinis, I mean, I'll show you ladies this list, and I will post it on the internet too. But they have a whole big thing. So like each Dakini has a color, a direction, a symbol, a time of day, a shape, like everything. So it's like the zodiac and like feng shui. You know what I mean?
Oh, wow.
They have like all these different elements. So like you can resort to your own Daikini-ness if you need to cut out something from your life. You know, you find something in that color, in that shape, and so on. So there's so much symbolism that translates into wisdom that I actually put it in my artwork, the mother tree artwork.
Yeah.
It is all 5 Dakinis that are in that artwork. So one example is the Padma Daikini. She's red, and so I used the 2 different red colors. Desire into wisdom. That's the Padma one. Triangle is the shape, so I tore them into triangles. And it turns that desire into wisdom. And because its spirit is a sunset, I put it in the sunset.
Oh, wow.
So it was my way of trying to evoke the most amount of Daikini energy into the piece. And I did the same thing with the sky and with the water and with the colors that I chose and the location that I chose. Because I wanted it to be like, okay, wisdom, women's energy, it translates now to you. So there's lots more. I mean, Bonnie's looking at the list right now. There's like tons of crap on there.
Yeah.
The body type is perfectly proportioned, well-toned, and very seductive.
Exactly.
I'm over here like, oh.
Right, exactly. I'm like, where's the juicy pear shape?
And one of them's got a season, and I'm like, okay, well, there's 4 seasons, so we're going to see how this
Correct.
plays out here.
Exactly.
But I
yes.
noticed they fixed the 4 elements.
They did.
'Cause-
Yep. Yeah, I know, right? It's
Like,
quite interesting
yeah.
how they actually utilized it. So, I mean, there's tons more about the Dakinis and about what they symbolize and all their different meanings to them. So I highly recommend Wisdom Rising. I will put it in the show notes. Anything by Lama Teresa Malone, she does YouTube videos. She also has the Tara Mandala Center in Colorado, which I applied for a grant to go see her at one point. It may be another day, but that's okay. But she does have workshops and retreats to try to work specifically on your Daikini feminine energy. So it's very cool. So I've been learning about these Daikinis. They're so multifaceted. There's so many different like elements and rabbit holes to go down to keep learning about them. Maybe one of these days I would do a Gals Guide class about them. I don't know. It depends on who's interested. So I will tell you that Daikini energy is the strongest during a certain time of the moon, okay? During the waning crescent moon. And everybody knows when the waning crescent moon is, right? Yeah? Is that 3rd Thursday? No. It's 10 days after the full moon.
Oh, okay.
So 10 days after the full moon, when the moon is in a crescent shape, the very first night that it's in a crescent shape, we live in Indiana, so it may be cloudy that day.
Yeah.
You may not need to know when it is. But I actually looked them up, and I will put in the show notes all of the Dakini days until the end of the year, because the crescent moon is supposed to represent the hook staff. The hook of compassion.
Oh.
And on that day, if you are in a meditation and you need to work on your pride or ignorance or jealousy or envy, you can kind of take a meditation on the color, you know what I mean? The shape, the really scary Tibetan drawings of these Dakinis,
Yeah.
whatever you need. Try not to do a real skull cup. Please go to Party City or something. And look at the crescent moon and think that a Daikini out there is trying to cut you free from the things that don't make you happy. So, and fill you with some wisdom. So there you go. Daikinis.
Interesting.
That is my glorious
interesting with the
obsession,
being
lady.
Yeah.
the moon and the
Yes.
moon were like so many like feminine things.
Right.
The
Yeah.
moon.
Right,
Think of,
exactly.
like, witches and
Mhm.
our monthly cycles.
Of course,
Oh, yeah.
right?
So it's funny. It's the moon again.
On full moon nights, that in Tibetan Buddhism is known as Buddha's Day. And whatever your karmic energy is that day, I think Debbie and I were talking about this one of these days. Whatever you do on a full moon day, if you are an asshole on a full moon day, people will be assholes to you the entire month until the next full moon. If you are nice to people, if you are giving, that's what will be returned to you all month long. So it's one of those things where there's very much the moon and the lunar cycle in a lot of old Tibetan Buddhism. So it's fun.
Just makes me think of like the people showing up at the hospital on a full moon.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
impact.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh.
My writers group on a full moon was the worst place in the world to be. Them
You've talked
bitches-
about that before.
Oh my God, those bitches came for everybody. Like, they hated every story. They just cut to the jugular. They were so mean on full moon days. I did not ever want to go to writers group on full moon days. So, and there I am going, can't we just be nice to each other? Because my karma's going to suck for a month. Yeah, exactly. So, yes. Any questions about Dakinis?
I feel like
if
there
I
should
can
be a
answer.
quiz to see which
know,
one
right?
you are.
It's like a Cosmo quiz.
trying
Which
to, like,
Daikini
look
are
at-
you?
Yeah, no.
I really would suggest reading the book because there's lots more in detail.
Yeah.
I mean, I will tell you that mine that I kind of relate to that I need to work on is I actually have it's the Buddha one, and you would think, oh, that's the best one. The Buddha energy can be listless. So in other words, when I'm on and I'm in the library and I'm having fun, I'm on. But when I'm off, I'm fucking off. Like, you know what I mean? It's like Netflix and don't talk to me. Like, I'm off.
Yeah.
The Buddha energy is stillness, and too much stillness is not doing anything. So when I'm off, I'm too off. You know what I mean? So that's what mine is. And I know that working on not being as unplugged when I'm unplugged is better, and not being so far on that I have to completely shut off. You know what I mean? So it's finding that balance. So,
Sounds
but that was mine.
Scheduled, unplugged
Correct.
hours.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly.
Like office hours,
Right.
unplugged hours.
Yep, exactly. And this comes from like decades with film work where there is no off hours. It comes from motherhood of there is no off hours. It comes from running this library where there is no off hours. So that's just, you know what I mean? That's something that if I work on it, I can find it, but I've been down the path and not.
Yeah.
Oh,
I'm still trying to. I'm trying to process.
Yeah.
Dakinis are a lot. I mean, it's like
Yeah.
I gave you 12 horoscopes and I also
I
gave you a
know, I
feng
didn't
shui
figure out
plan
which
for your
one
living
I
room.
am.
I know, exactly.
Yeah. And yeah, that book is like what 2 inches thick. And,
Oh, it's majorly thick, but
Yeah, and-
I read it in a day though. I was
Wow.
I was entranced with this thing.
Yeah.
There is pictures.
Ooh, pictures.
So there's pictures all the way through it
Yeah.
as well. So it's one of those things where it's really good. But she has a couple of books, but I recommend this one, and I recommend her classes that are on YouTube too.
Yeah.
So
It was interesting. I was looking at because you showed me the one of the Buddha Daikini first.
yes, yeah, the white
and
one. Yep.
and I'm looking at that and I'm like, I was in, I think it was a Thai restaurant that had that picture in there.
It's quite possibly.
And so I'm
yeah.
looking at it and I'm like, I know this picture, and it was just. It was
Which-
interesting to hear because I was
Of
always
what it
fascinated by the
means.
picture.
Right, exactly.
And I'm like, oh, so there's symbolism in there. It's not just a cool picture of a lady
Right, exactly.
who's dancing on another
On a
person
corpse.
for some reason.
Right, exactly.
You know?
The key one is the dancing on the corpse.
Yeah,
Yeah, this one seems to be more squished
Correct.
than that one.
yeah,
But that one's also got, they look like from Beetlejuice with the little shrunken heads.
Yes.
Like
Yeah.
she's wearing a giant necklace
Hey,
that
how
goes
you doing?
down to like her knees on these
Uh-huh.
little heads. And
She's
like,
Yeah.
got a lot of skulls on her. Yes, exactly.
yeah. And it's interesting how they do nude without doing nude.
Right.
So-
This is truth. This is me. Take it
Yeah.
all in. I don't care. Even the way her feet have a meaning. The foot up means
Oh.
adorned or absolute truth. And her foot down means reality truth. So in other words,
so uncomfortable.
it is uncomfortable, but
Yeah.
it's like a
oh.
flamingo. But it's supposed to be the reality truth is the truth of we're human beings, we're on Earth, or we have a finite amount of time. And then the leg up is the absolute truth, which is, there is suffering in the world. There's a way out of suffering. And then like the Four Noble Truths of Buddhism and stuff like that. So it's kind of like faith and reality
Okay.
are like the 2 feet. But then also she's dancing.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's a lot packed into an image, but I mean, these are thousands of years old, so that's what you do.
Yeah.
When you're talking about the dancing of them, I was picturing Bridget Jones.
Right.
They all dance.
Am I the only person who has never seen that movie?
It's been a
Oh,
long
it's
time.
They're really good.
See, exactly. Well, on that Bridget Jones note, I will wrap it up for the final because this is Our last episode covering folk tales and myths. We are off next Monday due to Memorial Day, and I would forget to put out an episode anyway. But we're going to return June 7th with a compass and a map, because we're going to talk about explorers. That's right. Ooh. Nobody's saying Dora the Explorer. Crap, it's already in my head. Thanks for listening.
We did it! We did it! We did it! Yay! Bellissima, we did it!
For show notes, links, and images from this week's show, visit galsguide.org. Want exclusive stuff like deleted bits and major bloopers? Become a Gals Guide patron today. Thanks for listening.